We saw these eyes pop up from the sand on a night dive and waited patiently. They turned out to be an Atlantic long-arm octopus, which are not that common on Bonaire. We literally spent the first 5 minutes of our dive watching it hunt. Keep a close eye on this crab. Swing and a miss. The one in back wasn't so lucky though. One of the most noticeable aspects of Red Beryl is its proximity to the Bonaire Kite School, just to the south. The school's popularity can make for some crowded conditions on the surface, with some spillover into nearby dive sites. This summer, a floating border was installed between Red Beryl and the area used by the school, which lets students know where to turn around and helps prevent collisions, where divers are more likely near the surface and vulnerable. The staff typically arrives around 8:30 or 9 in the morning, so an early morning dive should have relatively low surface activity. There are also fewer kite surfers when the winds die down, which you can track right on the school's website. Of course, if there is a lot of traffic on the water, you can always deploy a surface marker buoy, just to be safe. There is actually a proper beach at Red Beryl, and it makes for a beautiful walk. You can check out the birds, and the ubiquitous crabs, snails, and lizards we show in a lot of these videos. But how about something new? The beach has a lot of these holes where sand crabs live. If you park yourself next to one and don't move much, you might get to see one cleaning out some sand. There are lots of bushes around, which serve as nice windbreaks. Unfortunately, there weren't any flowers, but that may be due to the time of year we shot this. However, we did see a flamingo walking in front of the salt pan across the street. Anyway, back to the water. We will say that Red Beryl can be awesome for snorkelers, and it starts right when you walk in. This southern stingray was in less than 6 feet of water, as was this school of chub, and a couple of palometas. A little further out, we caught a school of ocean surgeonfish grazing, and beyond that, a school of yellow goatfish hanging around some gorgonians at 15 feet. We even had 2 first-time captures at Red Beryl, a freckled cardinal fish, and what we believe is an Atlantic white-spotted octopus. We also saw a number of uncommon animals, including a juvenile graysby, blackfin cardinal fish, and part of a very long ribbon worm. We'll show longer clips later, but if you want to learn more about the uncommon animals shown here, check out the video description below for links to additional information about each one. Before we get to the site logistics, we are very much enjoying this YouTube journey, and picking up a few subscribers along the way is fun as well. Be our brown chromis, and consider subscribing. Thanks. Smiley face. Smiley face. Red Beryl is one of the southernmost dive sites on Bonaire's leeward side, and the drive to get there is beautiful. It's a straightforward 7.5-mile drive from Flamingo Airport on EEG Boulevard. The road hugs the coastline, so you can check for dolphins and bait balls as you go. Of course, if you see either of those, save Red Beryl for another time. The road also passes Salt Pier and the White Slave Huts. After 6.7 miles or so, the road narrows to 1 lane. Continue for another 3/4 of a mile and look for the yellow dive site markers, neither of which were facing the right direction when we filmed this. Something else that will help is that this is the second asphalt shoulder after the road narrows, and there is a turtle nesting sign at the end. Pro tip: Maps.me is an excellent free offline GPS map. Notice we're getting real-time driving directions to Red Beryl while in airplane mode. There is a sizable gravel and dirt shoulder that can reasonably accommodate 5 to 6 trucks, but no real overflow parking is available. As with most of the southern dive sites, there are no amenities or shade here. Either come with your gear prepared, or set it up at your vehicle. And speaking of gear, Red Beryl is pretty far from civilization, so if there are any issues with your equipment, the closest dive shops are 5 to 6 miles back north on EEG Boulevard. There is a yellow exit entry rock, but entering the water is generally the same everywhere. Just beyond the sand is a rocky step that drops maybe 6 to 8 inches. After that, you'll land on a rocky ledge that goes out about 100 feet and gets about 4 to 6 feet deep, depending on the tide. It has a lot of holes and ruts, so your best bet is to go slow and check for good footing, which is of course easier with good visibility. Within the shelf area, there is a little deeper pool area that is perfect for donning and doffing your fins. The edge of the shelf is lined with blade fire coral and drops down to about 10 feet where the rock and coral debris bottom gives way to nice sandy shallows. At the far end of the sand, gorgonians and small coral heads lead the way to the drop-off. As mentioned in the background section, the overhead hazards may include kite surfers, wind surfers, and sometimes chase boats to support new students that may be having issues. Take special care at this site whenever you're near the surface. Red Beryl sits in the middle of a long curve, but in general, the compass headings for the reef are 240 degrees southwest, so 60 degrees northeast will get you back to shore. Other helpful landmarks include that buoy barrier, of course, but that puts you pretty close to the surface activity, and you'll only see it in 20 feet of water or less. On our dives, we noticed this very large boulder brain coral with what looks like a butterfly scar at 30 feet straight out from the entrance. There's a fairly good mix of coral heads and gorgonians as you swim toward the drop-off, which extends well beyond 100 feet. It's a beautiful reef all the way down. Here's a quick look at the terrain and slope in 20-foot increments. There are also a couple of sand chutes cutting through the reef, if you like to explore those. Typically, there isn't much of a current here, although it can pick up from time to time. On this dive, there was a slight drift north to south. Something else we should note was a very noticeable 8-degree thermal cline on our deep dive. It was quite visible in person, and we tried to capture the wavy refraction between the temperature layers. Anyway, it's food for thought when considering exposure protection. These brown chromas are a good reminder to scan the water around and above you to see what might be swimming by or hanging out near the drop-off. In terms of highlights, there is an incredible amount of coral diversity at Red Beryl. Everywhere you look, there's like a dozen different kinds. And it's not just hard corals. Red Beryl has almost endless fields of soft corals too. That, along with the fact that it's so far away from any lights, makes it a great place to watch ostracods. Check out this sea fan. It's bigger than Leslie. And be sure to save some air, because you're going to want to spend time in the shallows. In fact, we could easily spend an entire dive there. You may see a roaming school of bonefish, or a timid green razorfish hiding near a small coral head. A curious squid might stop by to say hello, or you might catch a glimpse of a juvenile rock beauty. Perhaps the funniest thing we saw was a juvenile French angelfish, desperately trying to clean a barjack that could not be more annoyed. Come on, man, quit bothering me. There are lots of interesting things to see at Red Beryl. For example, Leslie spotted a small fish with a white stripe along its back extending all the way to its mouth. Turns out it was a juvenile graysby. In case you're wondering, here's what an adult graysby looks like. This one is getting the full spa treatment, even the gills. This Spanish hogfish captured a sea urchin and was trying to find a way to either break the shell or remove the spines. We're not sure which, but it was definitely hungry for some urchin. We've seen sharp-tail eels put half their body or more into a hole chasing down some food, so it's not surprising to come across one whose exposed tail had its own unfortunate incident. And hey, check this out. It appears to be an albino soldierfish. Finally, this green turtle really wanted to settle in near those sea rods, but a very protective damselfish was having none of it. This went on for nearly 2 minutes, and we didn't see who won because, the rest of the reef was out there. Anyway, Red Beryl is a terrific way to spend a morning or afternoon. Want to see what else we saw? Okay, here's some more. If you want some extra fun, watch the sunset at Red Beryl and then go for a night dive. You don't even have to go that far. The shallows were exciting as a Caribbean reef squid decided to hang out with us for a bit one night. And then a green turtle swam by. Oh, and there were several blackfin cardinal fish as well. Speaking of cardinal fish, this one looked new, and it was. It turned out to be a freckled cardinal fish. The long tube here was actually 4 feet of a much longer ribbon worm. It's not particularly thrilling, given that we couldn't find either end of it, but they can get up to 100 feet or more. This one falls into the bad video, but proof we saw it category. Technically, we spotted an eagle ray. The nightlife at Red Beryl was full of interesting sea creatures, and we recommend giving it a try if you get an opportunity. In fact, here are a few more clips to whet your appetite. Enjoy.